Welcome to the pod focusing on the aftermath and recovery from the devastating Palisades fires of January 2025. Journalist Joel Pollack, entrepreneur Oren Ezra, and technology expert Ron Goldschmidt serve up to the moment vital news and information, discuss the ongoing recovery efforts, and introduce us to the individuals and trades who are playing key roles in rebuilding our cherished communities. We're diving into the deep end and learning quickly how we can move forward together. We know the pain because we're living real-time news, stories, resources, and insights on the ongoing recovery effort. Buckle up. We're three homeless guys.
Welcome to Three Homeless Guys, the podcast about the Palisades fire and the rebuilding effort. I'm journalist Joel Pollack, here with technology expert Ron Goldschmidt and entrepreneur Oren Ezra. And we are very pleased to be joined this week by our special guest, Elaine Culotti of Castellamare, one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in the world. And we'll introduce her more fully later. Elaine, welcome to the Three Homeless Guys podcast.
Thank you for having me on. It's good to see you guys again.
It's very good to see you. And a little bit of news. So I am, as you can see, situated in the DC Embassy of the Pacific Palisades. I think this is the second episode I've done from here. And I've got my Palisades flag behind me and everything. I was away last week in Lithuania shooting a documentary, my first documentary, which was a lot of fun, even if the topic was a pretty somber one. It's a story about the Lithuanian Holocaust, which is really where the Holocaust began. And very interesting stuff. I worked with this incredible filmmaker from the UK, a guy named Aidan Myatt, who is just incredible. And the three of us, it feels like three of us, there were two of us on the road for 3 days. And we just filled our schedule with shoots and things to do. And it was just nonstop work, constant work. Not even a moment to do anything really until we finally finished the last voiceover at the end of it. So that's kind of an interesting thing. A lot of Palisadians are getting out there. I'm hearing and seeing people's posts on Facebook and things like that. And Ron, I know you were in Europe and Oren went to Israel for a while, and people are getting out a little bit. It does help to have a sense of perspective. A little bit of personal news. So, I'm in DC. My wife is working for the Department of Labor, and kids are starting school here next week. I'm still having these epic fights with State Farm, and it's getting to the point where I've had to diversify my strategy going forward. So the plan still is to fix up the house, which survived. We've already taken down the fence and we've removed the burnt trees in anticipation of future repairs. But the plan is to fix it up and rent it out while we're here in DC. And State Farm let drop casually that because the Palisades is quote unquote inhabitable, they might be canceling the alternate living expenses, which caused a panic over in the Pollack household because we now have kids committed to another school for a year and wife committed to a job. And, it's not something you can turn on and off very easily. So we've had to really think very carefully about what to do. And the answer is none of this is in our hands. We just have to be prepared for whatever contingencies arise. But State Farm not really being a good partner at the moment, not really working with us. I know that's a common experience. We talked about the lists earlier and the itemization and everything like that. But if you're busy on the State Farm WhatsApp group, you're seeing all kinds of stories of things they're doing to people. So it's not happy. Ron, I see you nodding in agreement.
No, I mean, I'm just like, my State Farm story is like, I have this weekly call with my State Farm adjuster. And every week, it's just like an episode of like The Office, where he'll be like, what about these two items from your itemization list? And I'll be like, it's just two random things that he pulls out. And I'm like, okay, yes, that T-shirt was $80 and something else was. And they're like, do you have proof for that? And then the call is over. And until the next call, which has two other items pulled out from the list. And it's just like a performative exercise in delay. I have to be on the call. He has to be on the call. We all have to be on the call. The only thing missing is like a camera to look at my expressions of pain to be on the call. So I think once we are done filming the Lithuanian Holocaust documentary, Joel. I think we should film something about slightly more somber, which is dealing with State Farm every week.
It's so terrible.
It's really bad, but that's how it feels like. It feels like I'm in like a North Korean episode of like deal with my insurance every week. On a lighter note, by the way, like I have to point out to our listenership, to those who are not viewing us on YouTube, which is now a majority of folks. Joel is wearing a suit for the very first time. And I was taken aback because, like, usually we see Joel wearing like a tank top, like in the dusk of night, like after like putting 4 kids to bed. He's now like the most peppy and formal Joel I've ever seen. Like, Beltway Joel, and he's ready to accept guests into the ambassadorship of the Palisades in Washington. So he's moving right along to DC life, I see.
Yeah, well, I had to interview, I enjoyed the opportunity to interview the ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, today remotely. So I had to look the part. So
amazing.
Yeah.
I would like to add one thing to your insurance thing. I've been proposing this annex building department in the Palisades at 15224 Sunset, which is next to the nail salon. And the landlord donated the space to us. It's 2,500 square feet. It has a full counter, and it's just perfect. And it has a back entrance for the building department and Department of Water and Power executives that don't want to be front facing. And a couple of days ago, he called me to tell me that there's a big problem because the insurance company that is currently paying lost use would pull lost use if they were to put a tenant in there, even if it was nonprofit and gifted the space just to help people build.
Wow.
So there you go. So we're in that battle. So I totally understand this insurance thing. And I do understand that lost use has, certain constraints. But I think if people are working toward rebuilding the community, that all insurance companies would want to participate in that.
Yeah, that's not what they're interested in. And I think it's a shame because this really could be a partnership, but it really isn't. And the question of what is inhabitable, it's a subjective question, because if you have kids and you're surrounded by empty lots, is that really an inhabitable situation? I mean, you might have water and electricity, sort of, but if you have construction going on at both ends of your street and there's nobody around to play with, I mean, it's not really inhabitable. I don't know how State Farm is measuring that, but anyway, that's where we are. I mean, on the more positive side of things, the Pali Rec Center reopened, I see, in the last week or so. People came out for big ribbon cutting ceremonies, so that was nice. Kids playing on the new playground equipment. I know some of it was controversial, and I hear that local officials weren't informed about the designs and people didn't get enough input, but they got it up. And so kids are playing, and I hear people are playing tennis again over there, and there are little signs of life everywhere. So I always try to keep it positive, but the insurance part of this equation is very, very tough. And I don't know what people are facing right now, but if we have to face a choice between, paying rent and paying mortgage, I mean, it's tough, and these are decisions where there are possibilities, I think, to work with people, but they're just not interested. So
I also think the way that the metrics of what has been cleaned versus not cleaned has been presented to the local Palisadians and the larger Greater Los Angeles is also a big contention for me, because we really only had one way to count it, and that was through the Army Corps paperwork, right? Because Army Corps was here and they were very organized, so they had their 6,800 opt-ins and they had phase 1, 2, 3, and they marked them off on a book and sent it out. But independent contractors doing cleanup did not have such a kind of record keeping because there's not one hub. And so here we are 7 or 8 months into it, and you can see like we're half cleaned up. And people are like, no, we're further along than that. I'm like, it's not really possible. 6,800 was the number, and they are gone and leaving. And if they're here cleaning, they're cleaning part of that 6,800 number.
Right.
And we're issuing permits. Well, that's also not true. So we have a building department that's created a one-stop, which is over on Sawtell. I don't know if you've been there. It's pretty cool. But 1,541 people have gone in, 88 permits have been issued, and 18 of those are in the Palisades. So the people that are using them, and I'm guilty of that, if I have other projects that I need to get permitted, it's easier to go to the one stop than go to the regular counter. It's not for the Palisades. It's really just a way to just kind of get people feeling like permanent power. You can't get permanent power. You can't get temporary power. Temporary power is like up to $5,000 per person. There's where are the anti-gump rentals. And so they built a power basically center. It's located on the corner of Topanga Canyon and PCH. I'm sure you guys have seen the Department of Water and Power Annex. They can't open officially until the end of September because the Department of Water and Power doesn't have power. So we don't, So
well,
I'm not saying I'm not positive. I'm just saying, let us do it. Let us do it in the Palisades.
All right. So before we go any further, I want to see if Oren has any news, and then I want to give Elaine a more complete introduction.
Yeah. So, Joel, I leave the positivity to you because, as usual, I honestly I don't know how people are going to move back to the Palisade. I don't think it's State Farm issue. I think, listen, if a house stayed, and even though you have insurance, let's assume that your situation is different. Let's assume that your house is not like, you cannot really move back. But let's say if there is a house that is perfect condition, that's maybe not something that insurance shouldn't pay for. But the problem starts that we have a mayor that doesn't do anything. We have, if you're in LA County, so I didn't see the county do anything for us. We have a governor that doesn't do anything for us, and we have a president that doesn't do anything for us. End of the day, guys, like I'm saying, nobody really cares about what's happening to us, the families in the Palisade. I really, the more I hear about it, the more I read about it, I believe that there is a goal over here to build in the Palisade like a lot of buildings and to totally change the neighborhood. I don't see how somebody that bought a house over there in 1967 or right around this area where the neighborhood was starting to build, and they bought the houses in $150,000, $200,000, some for even less, can afford themselves to rebuild, especially with what the insurance is doing to us right now. I think that the biggest pain point, like Ron mentioned, like you, Joel, mentioned, is the insurance company. It's they're just like making a joke out of us. They're laughing in our faces. You know, I'm lucky. I have like a very nice guy at State Farm. He's very nice, but it's not that I'm getting more money or less money. I'm not getting my money. I'm still like, I made the list. For me, he doesn't ask me every week to go back to my list. He's just telling me, oh, it's under review, it's under review. The other guy didn't send it. This guy didn't send it. And they're all evaluating my house for like $200 a square foot to rebuild. So listen, it's like, again, I don't know. I don't know what we can do. I don't see anything that we can do right now until we hopefully change, you know, whoever is sitting at the mayor office and above. And even if we will be able to do 1% in helping to change it, we're a very small community, guys. We don't have a lot of power. So hopefully, you know, Joel, you have more experience in this with me, and can we can start talking to the audience and explaining them how we can how can we really make a change, because I don't see how we can make a change, and I don't see the insurance problem is being solved. I don't see the permitting problem being solved. And again, for somebody that his house is perfect, the whole neighborhood burned down. Either the county or the city, or I don't know, federal, somebody need to pay for this guy that is not going to be able to live in his house. His insurance company, listen, the house stayed intact, let's say it's perfect. The insurance company maybe is not in charge of it, but somebody need to take care of these people. It's not your fault that the whole neighborhood burned down.
Well, you know, interestingly, and this is going to be a good segue to what we're talking to Elaine about, but there was an article in Politico earlier this week about how nobody seems to be in charge in LA, and they weren't even talking about the fires. They were talking about the planning for the Olympics and how the unions pushed through this $30 an hour Olympic wage for the hospitality industry. So the hospitality industry countered with some ballot measures of their own. And basically the unions and the business interests are going at each other with all these ballot measures that nobody can ever figure out when it comes time to vote anyway. I get all these frantic emails before people go to vote. Like, what should I vote for? I don't get any of this stuff. So the public is going to be asked to decide. But meanwhile, the clock is ticking. The Olympics are, 3 years away, and nobody's building anything. Nobody's ready. So is anybody in charge? And that's not just us asking that. That's Politico. That's the National Political Press Corps.
Trump did put together a task force, an Olympic task force. You've heard that, right?
Yeah, he's going to have to start firing some people because it doesn't seem to be happening. But let's get into that with Elaine. Elaine is a developer and really a brilliant analyst of what's going on. And Elaine was the first person to explain to me that there just wasn't enough space in the landfills to take all the debris that we had in the Palisades in Malibu, so a lot of it was going to have to go out of state. Very fascinating conversation we had pretty early on. And Elaine has a lot of other ideas as well. She is very experienced in the area of property development and has handled some very major projects. And, in the search for leadership, Elaine, I hope you don't mind me saying some people are talking about you as possibly jumping into the race for one thing or another, but we'll leave that to the side for now. Let's talk about the Palisades, Malibu, and Castellamare, really one of the most interesting neighborhoods in the world. And tell us about your experience in the fire, and we'll start from there.
So Castellamare is one of the, true golden gems of the Gold Coast because it was built in the 1920s, and there were lots of summer homes of the very rich and famous. So you have, the Joseph Cotton Estate and the Seven Castles by the Sea and the Porter Marina Village. And back in the day, there was a port there that kind of ran out like a dock. It was huge, but they did that. There was a huge mercado and lots of fishing and.
It's on a hill. You should explain to people. It's a neighborhood on a hill overlooking the ocean. Yeah, it's
the
beautiful.
Furthest, with the exception of I think it's Sunset Miramar. It's the last part of the Pacific Palisades before you're at Malibu. And
these guys are from Sunset Mesa. I think that's one.
That's
north.
right, one north. And which, so out of 300 homes, 280 are burned. So it's tragic. And in addition to that, it's truly like the Amalfi Coast, and all the streets are named like Ravello and Porto Marino and Positano, and it's just divine. But it doesn't suit today's building standards, and so rather than preserve it, it's been left. It's had landslides and they just left it. And then when the fires came, all of the infrastructure that had been duct taped and stapled together over 30 years, and these are temporary fixes that they never really put infrastructure money into, burned up. It just burned up. So when the water came, the hill slid down and there was this landslide and there was a house that was gone and another house, and it was very famous and it was all over the news. But the history behind it is more devastating than you can imagine, because the reason it fell down was because it was never secured to begin with, because it's been left, which is kind of tried and true about what's happening in LA generally. And that is this lack of maintenance of our infrastructure, this lack of care of the people that live here. And whether it be taking care of the forestry and dealing with the fact that we have, brush growing in between old forests in both state and federal land that we seek to protect instead of cut, or water issues that begin up in Northern California that's really pulverized the Central Valley and the farming industry. And ultimately, we're low on the totem pole to have water to fight fires. And then you have all the infrastructure of making sure that the hydrants work properly and water storage and all of these reservoirs that are empty. This is like just the tip of the iceberg as you go down to streets that don't work, neighborhoods that can't communicate, our poverty situation and homelessness situation, the problem with our border, the way that we treat immigrants, both old and new. There's endless issues of basically planned obsolescence, the dilapidation of the state. And it's not just LA. LA, because of the fires, shined a light on it. Literally, a fire burned away all of the emperor's clothes. You can see everything. You get like, oh my God, what happened to that rubber pipe? why was that pipe rubber? And why was it there anyway? Where's the drain? And now that I've had a minute to kind of process it, or should I say 8 months, we need new management. There's a couple of alternatives that could happen, but short of like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass saying like, you know what, we're just going to step down and leave. There's not a process to change the management that's not aggressive.
Sorry, Elaine, we need a management, first of all. We need
any management.
Anything. There is nothing, honestly.
And there's not a real path. So we need a new insurance commissioner. I like Stacey Korsgaarden. I don't know if any of you have watched her. She's fabulous. I mean, I wish we had her. And we need a new lieutenant governor because the lieutenant governor brings business into the state. And we haven't had business brought into the state in 3 decades. I mean, it goes back as far as Gavin Newsom. And we obviously need a new governor. But then we also need to deal with these cities and the way that they're set up. And there's like 50 mayors in California. I mean, Karen Bass people are complaining about what could happen in New York with this new guy, Mandavi, that wants to run, that is, basically a socialist. Okay. How is that different than Karen Bass? Is it because he's talking about it? I mean, people don't understand. Like, there's 2 methodologies. One is providing the basics to the people that pay taxes so that the city can function. And the other one is to steal the money from the people who pay taxes so the city can function. So if you take the money and keep paying for all of these problems without anybody reinvigorating the economy, eventually you run out of money, which is exactly what's happened. I mean, this happens in basically running a checking account, let alone a state. So we've got a problem that's not easy to solve peacefully. And so what's happened is Donald Trump has reservations about giving Gavin Newsom $45 billion for the fires because they can't pass any kind of an audit, not for the homelessness, but even now this music event. So crime rate is out of control, and there's been this big fight over the ICE raids. So what does Trump do? And I started thinking about it about 2 months ago, and I started working on a white paper about what are the differences, because I don't think people know, of secession and de-annexation, because all cities are annexed into their big cities, and or what's called a charter city like LA, which allows only in California but all over home rule, which is now what you're getting a front and close personal look at in DC, especially Joel, since Joel, you're living there. The whole idea that Trump's like rose up and said, hey, home rule, guys, you're breaking all the rules. Like, you don't get your own city and then get to do whatever you want. You get your own city, but you still have to maintain civil, safe environment and prosperity for the homeowners that live in that city, because those are the people that you've taken this representation from. And I feel like that's what's going to happen in LA. And so I wanted to write a white paper to try to understand, is there a way that we can peacefully engage in this instead of hostily being taken over? Yeah, and do you understand?
So just to bring people up to date, Trump announced earlier this week that he was taking over policing inside the District of Columbia, taking over the Metro Police Department, putting National Guard troops on the street. And it feels to me like a good idea. I supported what he did in LA because I didn't want to see the riots spread. Now, you can say it's a kind of academic debate whether the riots would have spread with the National Guard or without the National Guard. But after 2020, I'm in favor of whatever they need to do to stop the rioting from spreading. That was the last thing we needed in the Palisades or anywhere else. And Trump's now doing that in D.C. after winding it down in L.A. And the D.C. mayor, you're right, Elaine, she opposes it, but she's not going to oppose it legally because she doesn't have legal grounds on which to oppose it. She has to let Trump do it, and the police union supports it, so the mayor would be going against the police union. So we'll see what it means in D.C., I don't know. But what I think you're suggesting is a kind of home rule for the Palisades, where the Palisades basically become self-governing.
Sort of. I mean, it would be easier and I think more effective if we home ruled all of LA. Because,
what does that mean? Like, you basically break away from California in some way, or?
Well, so the home rule allows for municipalities or cities to govern themselves, but not in California unless you're a charter city. Well, Los Angeles is a charter city. So home rule sort of automatically applies anyway. We don't have to start over. De-annexing is different. De-annexing, which is also very cool and a lot easier to do in the beginning, you draw a map around the 90272, which is the Palisades zip code, and you say this little city would like to de-annex for the purpose of rebuilding, and we would like to reclaim our taxes, our tax base, 300 to 500 million, and rebuild ourselves in private-public partnership. And what happens after that, we don't know. That's a little bit different. Secession is very difficult. Sherman Oaks tried in 2003. They had good reasons and it didn't work. And also, it's a complete break. I feel like some version of de-annexing for the Palisades, but if we can't get everybody to agree on that because the whole of Los Angeles depends on the taxes from wealthier neighborhoods in LA, then let's talk about the charter city that we formed and that we all agreed on and the misuse of the charter, because that's what it is. When you take away police and you don't allow the federal government to assist when there's a riot, you're abusing the charter. When you have homeless people all over the streets and you can't do an accounting for $25 billion, you're abusing the charter. When you throw an event for a fire and you raise $100 million and you don't know what happened to it and it didn't make it to the victims, you are abusing the charter. So my point is like if we're a charter city and we can have home rule and we can self-govern, we should ask for help rather than have it forced upon us, which could happen.
So ask for help from the federal government.
That's correct. Ask for Trump to help us. I mean, Trump has already put together a task force for the Olympics. And why did that happen? And I also want to point out something very important. Trump is also engaged in some kind of a partnership with Latham Watkin that is pro bono. So there is a fight ahead that Trump's anticipating, both legal and on the street. And he is trying to get in front of that because President Trump needs California to really balance his budget. And he cares about California, but you've got an administration that is at war with him, and it's difficult to ask for something when the administration is at war with him.
You mean the Newsom administration?
That's correct.
Right.
We're not in any discussions federally, and we're bankrupt, so we have to be in the federal discussion. And it's too darn bad. I know everybody's like, oh my gosh, she wants to talk to Trump, but what do you expect me to do? Like, this is where we are. There's no money. And then when we ask where the money went, there's no accounting.
Would Trump be able to invoke those powers for LA in the same way that he's able to do it for
The answer
DC?
to that is yes. And why would we...
Do you think the Olympics are like kind of like the event that would make him do so? It's like... Oh,
that's interesting. I don't know.
Because he's mentioned the Olympics quite a few times, including yesterday, including the Palisades. And I'm thinking, if these are the Olympics, the national stage at which we're supposed to show the U.S., and things are still a shit show by 28, which it will be with like the current people in charge, is that the event that is going to lead him to take some kind of action on L.A.? Joel, do you see any possibility?
I think what might end up happening is they end up adding events to the Olympics. So in addition to the usual ones, they'll add a new event in debris removal, another one in evacuation, another one in rebuilding.
Insurance debating.
I mean, wouldn't that be great if everyone just came and helped? If we had the world's greatest athletes to help us figure this out? I mean, certainly we could use the coaches. I mean, that's what we need.
I think, by the way, Mexico would win all the gold medals. So.
I mean, listen, the whole debris removal thing is like another thing that's kind of fallen on deaf ears. And, I've been able to work pretty closely with Lee Zeldin and his administration because they are really a powerful bunch. And I've said, like I've shifted my focus from the LA cleanup, fire cleanup to the LA River cleanup for the landfill that's down there so that there's at least something that, can be worked on with this landfill that we discovered that's been unused. And we're fighting the fight to get debris removal on rail for the rest of the fire cleanup. But you've got to have participation from our state, and we just don't have it. I mean, Gavin Newsom has not opened the email. I've seen it sitting in that email box since the end of March. Yet Lee Zeldin, those guys mobilized in 7 hours. I mean, that's meaningful. 7 hours. Hey, call this girl and ask her what she's talking about. 7 hours.
Right.
And then you get a whole team and they look at it and they get eyes on it. And they're like, hey, this is really good. Like, what about this? So I've learned kind of, since this started, that I send ideas out, and then I send the people that pick up the phone and want to talk about it. I call them, and that's how you move it forward. And I wrote this paper on this de-annexation because I was like, well, why don't we open a pilot building department, in the Palisades on Sunset? And then all these people that are a little bit older, because there's a lot of them that like have never built a home, they can come in there and physically have a front-facing experience with somebody that says, okay, here, fill this out, and let me take your deposit, and here's your permit, and go get your power pole. But no, we don't have that. So
just explain that idea a little bit more. So you wanted to open a building department office or annex? How did it work?
I'd like it to be the City of Pacific Palisades Building and Safety Department. Just like that. And say City of Palisades, so it's Palisades. Put a staff in there from building department, from planning, Department of Sanitation, BOE, and then have the Bureau of Engineering is important because there's so much traffic on the streets, and the Department of Public Works. And then have counters and have people in there that are permit expediters and private people that have already volunteered their time. I'm talking about architects, engineers, soils people will all volunteer their time and staff the schedule 4 days a week from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m. and have it so people can come in and get meaningful help, be able to print over-the-counter permits, have computers there, because a lot of permits you can get e-permits, and certainly for temporary power. But it's so overwhelming to people, and they get in the line, and then they go into another line, and then another line, and most of the people can't. They have only the power to say no. We need a place where there's the power to say yes. And by the way, this is not a new idea. This has been done in many cities, and letting these guys do it independently is the way to do it. There's always a check and balance. It is, after all, the Department of Building and Safety. This would allow us to have our own inspectors and people that are familiar with the streets and the people. Because what about the people that can't afford a big contractor?
So what kind of authority do they have? I mean, do they have authority from the city to make these permits available?
Yes, they do. They could and they should. And I think that it's very easy to do. And I think that Tracy Parks would stand behind it. And I think Tracy Parks can get it through city council because it will show a show of force to get things done sooner. And I don't know why Karen Bass would interfere with everything that she said about trying to expedite. And I don't think the building department would be at all opposed. I think they would rather have the same group of people working on it so they can push out more work product. The problem is, I've already discovered, we cannot pay, even through subsidy, a city worker to work there. So city council has to approve the staff and the staffing of the satellite building department, and then we can get funding for that. But it still has to be approved to city council.
So what you're saying is, instead of a one-stop permitting shop that's part of the LA Department of Building and Safety, have a satellite office in the Palisades that focuses only on the Palisades, so that you're not bringing in everybody from all over the city to expedite their permits there, while a few Palisades permits get processed, but you're focusing only on the Palisades.
You're doing it as it's an emergency.
Right.
It's an emergency ordinance, and stop screwing around with mixing this in other things.
Would it help? I mean, I'm just brainstorming here, but given that Pali High is there and there may be some facilities there, I mean, would it help to say, look, we want to host an Olympic event in the Palisades, whatever it is, whether it's mountain biking or, I don't know, swimming or track or whatever it is, I mean, whatever, surfing. And to do that, we're going to need to rebuild the neighborhood. So let's get people in there as part of the Olympics. I mean, I sort of said it jokingly earlier, and I apologize if I offended anybody. But
I mean, it might help.
But maybe say, hey, we got to get this going.
I mean, we shouldn't be in a situation in the state, and certainly in the Palisades, Altadena, Malibu, where we're relying on federal funding from the Olympics to be able to rebuild. And I'm not saying that it's not a great idea. It's just so infuriating that that's where we are. We're like, where can we get money? Who will give us money? Like, where are our own coffers? And then you have all this other...
Let me ask you this. What money are you talking about? Like, each person needs to take care of his own house, right? I'm not expecting the federal government to pay for my burnt house.
Right, but your street in front of your house is totaled from all those trucks. Okay, they've already moved almost 400,000 trucks across our streets. Mm-hmm. Drive around the Palisades and look at the cement. And look at the fact that we don't have water. all the pipes need to be redone. There's no underground drainage in Castellamare, and certainly, as you know, in your area.
Yeah.
The infrastructure alone and our infrastructure budget that we were requesting was part of what was going on with what was the housing density thing that Ben Allen put forward that caused the whole rift last month. You know, the high density housing bill.
We spoke to him about that.
516 was.
Yeah, he was on to talk about that and explain.
But you understand what happened, right? City council didn't have enough money to redraft a bill. So they came up with an idea to get the infrastructure money into the Palisades, and they had to tag it onto a bill. So they tag it onto a high density bill, and the whole thing blows up. And Ben Allen has to like backpedal and pull it till next year. And all he was trying to do is find a path to infrastructure money for the Palisades. And the Department of Water.
Wait, you're saying that happened? He explained that to us, that he originally had some other bill for transportation, and then this new bill got piggybacked onto it. Is that because you're saying they didn't have money to draft their own bill?
That is correct.
The city of Los Angeles didn't have the money.
City council does not have enough money in their hoppers to be able to hire legal people to draft legislation.
They do have $1 billion shortfall. I mean,
they're out of money. And everything, all strings are, that's what I said. Like, sure, we can go hawk the Olympics and say, hey, give us some money because we want to host surfing. But it's at the end of the day, the problem is that the state is broke. And so we don't have infrastructure money. And then all these lawsuits are flying about who's going to pay for what, like Department of Water, blah, blah, blah. Listen, we didn't cut the trees and the forest, and we didn't put water, and we don't take care of our streets, and our infrastructure is a shit show. And now we're all saying, oh, point the finger here, point the finger there. We need new management. And we're going to have a hostile takeover by the Trump administration if we don't get it together.
First of all, I'm not sure it's such a bad idea, because right now we don't.
I don't think it will be hostile. I don't think it will be hostile.
That's true. A lot of people might say fine.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening right now. There is no management of anything. I can tell you, as a person that his house burned down, forget about my involvement in other stuff. As a person that his house burned down, as a person that ran a business, one of the only ones that stayed at running a business, a small business, manufacturing business here in Los Angeles. Every morning, something is happening that is pushing me away from here more and more. Insurance, debris removal, the taxes I need to pay, the salaries that I need to pay to employees. Nobody wants me to manufacture here, and nobody wants me to live over here. That's a fact.
Well, one of the most important things to me would be to go back to Rick Caruso and say, hey, look, if we can do this de-annexation and or home rule, would you step in and could steadfast step in as temporary management of the city if we can get the city council to agree to that? And that could be something that could happen by the end of the year, rather than this risky business of trying to, essentially impeach a mayor through recall. Because the recalls that and I'm sure there's something else that she could do anyway. She doesn't the job at hand is not a job that's within her wheelhouse. She doesn't have the skill set. And then one step away from that is, the situation going on downtown. And I don't think that Rick Caruso would have been a good mayor. I think Rick Caruso would have been a fabulous mayor, a great mayor. But the way that the structure is set up when you run here in California is almost impossible to break apart this kind of hierarchy of Democrats that have basically held power in office for 30 years. And good and bad. I mean, the problem is that they know so well how hard it is to win, case in point, Karen Bass, that they put little effort into even trying to do their jobs because they're not going anywhere. And so my point is, if we're going to be facing a potential takeover through home rule with Trump, a real one, then let us get in front of that and be organized and at least have a seat at the table with who's going to run what. Because there are plenty of people in this city that are more than qualified. Rick Caruso would be amazing to run LA. And then people that are interested in other things, like I'm very interested in transportation, supply chain, the border, farming. And how are we going to bring all the building materials back to the Pacific Palisades, Altadena, and Malibu? Where's that going to come from? And how are we going to move it? We're going to put it all on trucks and go to Home Depot? We need our own leader.
How long you think until the Palisade will be suitable for living as a neighborhood? Like, with like not 100 houses being built on every street, and the streets are fixed, and there is electricity, and there is like everything we need to go back to live there.
I think the Pacific Palisades will be up and running in the next 3 years. The Palisades is a little bit different than what's happening in Altadena and Malibu. Because Malibu, the part that burned is very hard to rebuild, and they don't have septic. So, if I were like the governor, I'm not, but if I was, I would be like, what are we talking about septic? Cut PCH up and put sewage in. Are you kidding me? This has been going on for years. We have this golden opportunity. Every house is burned down. Rip up the street and put in sewage. There's sewage everywhere else, and call it a day. No. Oh, what are they going to do? How are they going to raise the foundations? Are they ever going to rebuild? Who cares? It's Millionaires Row. Well, I care. Why can't we put in proper infrastructure? Because we don't have infrastructure money. And that is not the city of LA. That is the state of California. And that includes Malibu, even though they're independent.
Elaine, what do you make of this AECOM announcement from Tracy Park that AECOM is becoming involved? AECOM, to those who don't know, is a massive infrastructure and consulting firm who's actually has a pretty good reputation in building.
I'm ready to talk about it. I already talked to her about it.
What do you think?
So, well, it's not her decision. She's being forced. These things are being forced upon her. And she might not say that out loud, but that is the fact. She doesn't go out and find a consulting company. But they don't know what to do. So they need a consulting company. So this is the third one, I think, or the fourth one. And these consulting companies are part of the problem. I mean, even ECC, who was the middleman for FEMA, they have to get the money and then send the money out. And that middleman costs a lot of money. So if you get $1.1 billion from FEMA on the Biden MATOC, right, how much of that really gets into the cleaning? Is it $700 million? Where's the accounting for it? And so for Tracy Parks to announce a new consultant is basically a new middleman that's going to take more money for the infrastructure. And by the way, hire Tudor Perini, who got screwed over on the high-speed rail deal, and have them rebuild the Palisades. There's plenty of contractors in California that are big enough to do it, and they don't need a middleman, by the way. Look what happened with high-speed rail. Ron Tudor built it. I mean, he went and did his thing. But if you take half of the money and pay NGOs and special interest groups and God knows who to fight high-speed rail, guess what? You don't have high-speed rail.
Could you explain what a MATOC is? Sorry, you explained it to me once before, but I don't know if many people know what a MATOC is.
So there's MATOCs and SATOCs, and these are like contracts that go from, say, I'll just use just ours as an emergency relief. So FEMA does not come and actually like shovel the ashes, right? FEMA comes and they make sure that everybody that's like dying or on triage has water and is headed to a hospital. But they have behind them this army of people that are a readiness group. So you have EPA or you have ECC or you have Army Corps. And these are the people that security paving. They come in and they do the action of the cleanup. That's their job. So the MATOC, a mandatory award task outside contract, is a pre-made contract that puts together your readiness crew. So they're standing behind you like an army. And then when you come in and you're FEMA, you have this army ready to go. And they're already under contract and they're already prepared. They already have deposits and they mobilize quicker. The alternative is how things get handled in California. You we had an emergency. What are we going to do? We better get somebody and we better ask them. So let's hire Soboroff. He wants however many hundreds of thousands of dollars for himself to tell them what to do. And he doesn't know. And so we aren't prepared. And the reason that the cleanup went as well as it did is because it wasn't California. It was the federal government under the Biden MATOC. So it was a pre-organized military movement. They were in theater. When they came here, they were in theater. Hi, who are you? Yes. Where's your address? Yes. We'll be there on Tuesday. Yes. All the guys show. Sign here. We're coming back on Wednesday. Sign here. Are you on the list? No, you need to be on the list. Go over there. We don't have any of that anymore. They're all gone. So now it's just wily contractors driving around. Their trucks are open. They got no hauling route hearing. Shit's flying everywhere. Everything is dirty. I mean, everything is dirty. And there's no hub. There's no one telling them, hey, check in here first. Have you seen the amount of signs on fences? Call us, we'll help you. Call us, we're going to help you. The whole of the Palisades is chain link fence and business request signs. It's the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Like, it couldn't be more unorganized.
Well, I think you're making a very strong case for better organization, that's for sure. And I like the idea of having a local office at least to coordinate all this, because it is going to get pretty crazy, assuming people get the money to rebuild and get their permits and start doing it. We have some successful projects, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll highlight a couple of them. But
right, but imagine 1,000 of them, not 100, not 18.
I have a question
And imagine, 40, 50 people on a job site, and it's every job site on the street. So every single day, from the morning to the night, every person is having a party for 40 or 50 cars. So there's food.
This is why it would get, like, you're looking at like a massive event, like where if I was to drill down the problem, it's exactly what you said, Elaine. There's like, this huge issue, and really nobody at the city level, at any level, really has any competence when it comes to rebuilding or building in general. This is why Trump or Caruso actually are like so good on this, because they're builders. They literally
Got to
know
be a
what to
builder.
do.
You got to have a brain like that.
Yeah, they know what to do, and you have nobody at any city level that has any idea on what to the next thing to do, and that's why they end up hiring all these consultants that tell them what to do, and then they end up firing them, and like it goes around. But like it seems to me like that's who the right people that should be in place, like actual builders.
They need actual builders. They don't need these middle people. Tracy doesn't have a say in it. She's just spoon-fed the information they want to give her. And she's struggling because she's not dumb. She's smart. And she knows I'm in a good position. I should be able to help. And I'm having a tough time moving the needle. And that's got to be debilitating. You've worked so hard. You've become this, city council person. And you watched your town burn up. I mean, look how good she did on homelessness in Venice. I mean, she tries, and albeit, she's in with a group of people that are probably not seeing things exactly the way that she sees them, because they're throughout LA. And part of the problem with city council, right, is the agendas are different in every district, because LA is such a monster. It's a huge city. So if Rick Caruso if I could orchestrate with the Trump administration a way to kind of break up the responsibilities a little bit so that we could have meaningful mobilization, I would just be so grateful for the ear, and then I can move on to like some of the other stuff, like what are we going to do about work permits? I mean, we have to let people work if they've been here for 15 years, and we just need to do work permits, even if we bring back like the farming work permit and we expand on that. But
why not get some money? Like while they work over here, why don't we get some money from the taxes instead of them being able to work with no papers or anything. But I want to go back for a second. You said earlier that you think it will take 3 years. I'm just looking at, I just draw myself a quick timeline for myself, right? I'm 6 months after the fire. I still don't know how much money I'm going to, and you're a builder. I'm asking for your advice. I'm sure that a lot of people here listening to the podcast have the same exact question. So I'm 6 months after the fire. I have no idea if I have like $600,000 or $1 million or $2 million to build my house. I know it can be anywhere between $600,000 to, according to my policy, to 1.6, right? Probably by the time I know, with this pace, it will take another 6 months to a year until I know how much money I have. Only then I can start planning, because I'm not going to plan 3,000 square foot if I have enough money to buy to build a 2,000 square foot. So only in a year and a half, a year or something like this, I will start building my house. Then, like you're saying, there is like 30 cars on each property. I don't know. I don't even understand how we can do that. We don't have enough employees over here. We don't have materials. And you're telling me that you think that in 3 years the Palisade will be fine. And I'm like, I keep on saying I think it's 5 to 7 years. And I hear a lot of people saying, hey, anywhere between 2 to 3. And I really want to understand for somebody like from your perspective, how do you think that like in 3 years the Palisade will be like livable again?
Okay, so this is the part about fast tracking permits that's so important. To build 3,000 square feet, you can do it in about 17 months, 15 months to 17 months to do 3,000
100%.
square feet. Fairly easy and fairly good. And so that's the end. Then you have landscaping and all your whatever. But from the beginning to the end, it should really take that long. And so the way that I think things are going to go is I think something very serious is going to happen in the next couple of months with people that are running out of money and are basically losing their homes. Because there's a lot of people that cannot afford to stay in temporary housing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, my situation is my home survived the fire, and I'm in danger of losing the home because of this insurance nonsense. Yeah.
Correct. So this is a big deal. And so this is going to get federal attention, number one. Number two, there's going to be a hardcore press on subsidizing these insurance companies that can't pay out. It's going to come down. That's why, and that's a big part of it, is we have a bond, the state has a bond, and we can get federal assistance on the insurance side. So I think the insurance side is going to get resolved federally. And I think that how
is the federal going to resolve it? It's like...
Well, because, again, I don't want to get taken over hostily, but what's happened in our state is we've been mismanaged by our governor and all the cronies underneath the governor. And they have strip mined us of all of our resources, including our coffers. So there's no money. Okay, so that they were hired to do a job, and instead of doing that job, they stole from us. And that is about the nicest way that I can say it. And when you steal from the people that you work for, there are consequences. And those consequences, there will be. There must be.
They're doing it for 30 years.
Yes, but there's a new sheriff in town. And watch what's happening. They just arrested somebody in Phoenix for stealing $32 million. This show is just beginning. This show is just beginning. And this crazy wildfire party is a good example because it's so recent. And the people that donated to that are the very people that put that guy in office. It was all these blue check Democrats from the Pacific Palisades and Brentwood and all of Beverly, everybody, all the big music people that put money for these people that were friends of theirs. And that money has been stolen. It is just the beginning. And Donald Trump is not going to put up with it. And we should not. We should say, okay, you know what? Maybe we should have a closer look. Maybe we should doge California.
And finally, you know what? We've been.
I have an answer for you. I have an answer.
We had over 30 episodes, and I keep on asking, what can we tomorrow morning? What me, Oren Ezra, can wake up in the morning and do in order to make a.
I have an answer. I got a text message from the governor during the taping of this show.
Yeah.
It even came with a picture of the governor, so I know it has to be from him. It says, Gavin Newsom here, humbly asking you to contribute whatever you can afford today to help us pass redistricting in California. I need to know you're with me before we press forward. If Texas wants to redraw their maps, California will fight fire with fire, but I can't just do that alone. And there's very helpfully there's a link here where you can donate money.
More money to Act Blue.
Yeah, Act Blue.
Act Blue is like a toilet. They literally flush the money down that toilet.
Well, one of our neighbors is the general counsel for Act Blue, or was at some point. So, it's part of the neighborhood. But look, the point is the priorities here are about politics, and they're not about rebuilding. And, Oren, you mentioned everybody from the president on down, and especially at the state level where Elaine is talking. I mean, I just can't figure out why the governor thinks it's more important to show his party that he can fight Trump than it is to show his party that he can do a good job. The party primary voters he wants to impress, and he is running for president. Somehow he's basically underestimating them. He thinks that Democratic voters want someone who can hate Trump the best, rather than someone who can say, I did this, this, and this. I recovered from disaster.
Is he wrong?
I don't know. I have higher opinion of Democratic primary voters maybe than he does, but I think this is not helping him. I don't see it helping him.
I see what's happening in New York. I'm not sure he's wrong.
Maybe not.
One of the things I was thinking we could do is we could start a petition to ask Steadfast or some big group of people that are already building and working hard, which I think Steadfast is a good group. We could start a petition to ask Steadfast to lead the rebuild in the Palisades and write basically a doctrine for that. And then put signs all over the Palisades stating basically we would like to de-annex from Los Angeles until our home is rebuilt. Please sign the petition, and ask every single person that's got a burned out lot to put a sign in their lot and sign the petition. If there's 9,000 signatures, which would literally take me 2 days, I can file the de-annexation paperwork with the city. That's one thing to do. And that would make people
let's push for
to
it,
start a little de-annexation website, no money, just sign, and then draft the paperwork and send it in.
I'll build a website for it. I want to do something.
Okay, let's do that.
Really.
And then
let's do it.
And then we have to
can sit here and talk. We can sit here and talk, and obviously you're doing a lot of things. We can sit here and talk every week on the podcast, but nothing is moving. I'm not seeing my money from the insurance. I'm seeing this house getting rebuilt. I'm telling you guys that if nothing is changing, it will be 5 to 7 years, and I'm willing to bet with everybody over here that it won't take 2 to 3 years unless something is changing. And we need to change it because you know what? I might not lose my house, but I know a lot of people that are going to lose their houses. And I know a lot of people here. I have a friend over here that's sitting in front of me, Joel, that's saying, hey, if this is not getting if I'm not getting some help from somewhere, I'm losing my house. And Joel is not one of those. Pacific Palisades, people think that each one has like $100 million in his bank account. No, that's not the situation.
Yeah, well, look, we have actually invited Rick Caruso onto the podcast, and they keep saying they'll get back to me. I probably inadvertently delayed their response by getting mad at them over the response.
That's okay. You're allowed to be mad at them. Like we're not going to agree with everybody 100% of the time.
Right.
But
no, but it would just be helpful to grow a team for him, and they can, because they're writing. What's important about Steadfast is they are trying to write legislation. And
the challenge you face is that people will say you're doing this for political reasons. You know, he wants to run for mayor or governor or something. So this is not really about Palisades. You know, if you want him to come in, people will say, wait, I mean, it doesn't have to be true, but they'll say, oh, this is a grassroots effort for Caruso. We don't want to be involved.
Well, then we would just do it independently if that's what people want and they don't want help. I mean, I just feel like, they have a really good staff. And it just happens to be that Rick Caruso runs it. But I'm sure that Rick's not going to run for governor. I don't believe that for a minute. I think he would rerun for mayor. He loves LA. And, but everyone needs to stop thinking that every single person is a billionaire. It's not like that, number one. Number two, Rick's a very serious hard worker. And that Palisades Village probably represents 20% of his portfolio, and it is shut down. And as you well know, Oren, and we all know, even if you have a home, there's no business. There's no one coming in. So, you basically have overhead that you have to pay and you're empty. And that is to multiply that or 10x that for a guy like Rick Caruso, who has a brand new development that he just went hard on. And you think Chanel and YSL those guys are not coming back there for 10 years.
And there's no tax base.
There's nothing.
City.
We're not. Yeah, the city. So it's very likely that the best ally for rebuilding is Caruso or Anderson, whoever larger landowners are. I mean, look, we don't have any hospitality. We have no hotels. And everybody's so afraid of any kind of change to zoning in the Palisades that we're also at a standstill there. So the most important thing is to take the good assets that we have and work with them. And I think that Caruso or Steadfast is a good asset. I mean, I'd sure rather have them than this random consulting group that has been put in front of Tracy Parks that she's had to choose that no one's ever heard of.
And I have one more suggestion on this while we're on this issue, which is really use the federal powers that we have in order to bring in like real players into this game, which we have not done so far. So look at what we've done on the tariff side and on a lot of different deals that the government is striking right now, not only with foreign governments, But with software companies, there's a concept called gratis vendor, which is like employed in software land, where like if you can't sell software to the government and become like deployed instantly, but if you give the software away to the government, you get deployed right away. Which is where you saw a deal this week where like ChatGPT was basically given away to the federal government. Everybody in the federal government is not going to have ChatGPT for free. There are deals that are being done on a federal level, like the chip deal you just saw with China, which is like, for the longest time, we wouldn't sell chips to China. And now we're selling AI chips to China through NVIDIA, and basically the federal government is collecting a 15% tax. So there's all these like federal level deals that are being conducted right now. I haven't seen any of them being like, sniffing around for a deal for the Palisades. And if I was like in that seat or with access to like that federal power, I would ask like the top 100 builders in the country to say, hey, we want to build, 5,000 homes in the Palisades in the next 2 years. With those actors that do have power to like build that, and 40 to 60% of the Palisades are like within a very small footprint, like probably the 2,000 to 4,000 square foot homes that could fall to like a federal vendor. But nobody's doing any of that. I don't know why. I don't know like if the federal government is waiting for things to implode here, which they surely are heading that way. But I think that there's an opportunity to like for this to become like a national project. And I'm not suggesting like we'll see one builder take over and like build everything cookie cutter in the Palisades. I don't think anybody wants to see that either. But like there's a lot of different things a lot of different solutions, a lot of different modular, other kind of technological solutions are available right now that nobody's scratching the surface on. So that's another thing I'd like to like for our leaders to like think about, Caruso included.
I like that.
Not only that, like for us, like me and Ron are trying to find a solution for the last 6 months on how to build with budget. And we have a budget of probably, I don't know, $350 to $450 a square foot. And we see these companies coming on all the time, great companies that offer like to rebuild for amazing stuff with a robot, with AI, with this, with that. Everybody is like $700 to $1,000 a square foot. That's another problem that we have.
I mean, it's just the way it is now, though. That's
I know, but this can be resolved. I'm telling you that this, if like you put a team of engineers, you put a local plant over here, you build smart, that you can do a custom, you deal with the insurance. The insurance is the one thing that is holding back everybody right now. You deal with the insurance, so Oren will know how much money he has to build. Then I know if I have a $300 or I have $1,000 to rebuild my house. Until I don't know that, what should I even like? Why should I even like sit and start drafting my plans? It's.
I mean, I think it would be nice to have a help center next to the building department that has, people that you can talk to, and maybe even have a design center where you can, if you lost your home in the fire, you can order through the design center at cost instead of having to pay design fees. There's a lot of different things that we could offer.
I have a question for you. You're a builder, okay? I'm coming to you. I'm your friend. I'm sitting with you. Hey, give me advice. I need to start rebuilding. Me and my wife coming. She wants this. I want this. What will be the first question that you're asking us? How many square foot are you building, and what's your budget?
No, I would say, are you prepared to spend $750 to $1,000 a square foot to build in the Pacific Palisades? I mean,
how do I know? How do I know?
Well,
I don't know how much money.
I'm just saying, like, you have to be realistic, though, about if you don't get enough money from your insurance, it's not going to change how much it costs to build.
No, but we don't know. That's the thing. If
my point is
you don't know how much the insurance evaluated.
They're separate things, though. Or listen to me, they're separate things. No matter how much money you get from insurance, the cost of your home is probably going to be within $100 a square foot the same.
Well,
you might choose to spend more if you have more.
I'm deciding if I'm building a 2,000 square foot house or a 3,000 square foot house.
That's a different thing. But the cost per square foot is not going to change based on how much money you got. And I do think that we could create, relationships with people that do prefab homes and things like that. But you're going to change the kind of the culture and the fabric of the Palisades. And I think that's what people don't want to do. So my feeling is let people do what they want to do, but give them all the resources at hand.
So we've got a few ideas that came out of this. So we've got this idea for a local annex for the building department, combined with design help and insurance help, basically a localized office, Elaine, I think is what you're describing.
100%.
Where
And we can take that building that's right in the Palisades, but where the pavilion's thing, that's also available, the pharmacy building, which is about 8,000 square feet.
There you have to get through some of the insurance problems of lost use and all that. But assuming you can get use of a building, and then maybe getting a de-annexation petition going, getting Steadfast LA in there. I mean, lots of ideas have come out of this already. And we'll have to follow these up. I'll have to make sure we can get Caruso on and some other people and talk about these things. But
Caruso loves de-annexation, but it's very difficult for him to support de-annexation for the Palisades if he's going to run for mayor of the city, because then it would mean that he's breaking away a certain point. So my point is, it's not a permanent thing. It's a for specific pilot. It's a temporary de-annexation, so we can reclaim our property taxes, everybody, our sales taxes, and all of our revenue for the 2 or 3 years that it takes to rebuild.
Yeah,
right.
And but right now the 2 to 3 years is like largely in doubt, I would say, given everything that's going on. And the one final number I'd like to leave everybody with is like Pacific Palisades. I don't know the exact number, but I believe it collects several $100 million in property taxes per year, maybe up as much as $550 million per year.
You're exactly right. The property taxes are about $500 million a year. Every year that we are delayed, that's how much money is like basically getting incinerated by the city. So if we had gone to a federal contract and say, hey, we have a plan, 2 years, build everything up, and then do a revenue share for like how much faster you can bring those property taxes revenue in, and like do it, like just think creatively about like that money, because like every month that's just going by is $50 million down the drain. Right. That the city's not collecting. And if you put that in front of companies, like, and just make sense from a financial, you'll have like lots of people ready to rebuild in a fast pace and in a way that it fits the local budgets. There's also the possibility of a fire assessment district. I don't know, I'd have to dig into a little bit, but there's lots of assessment districts, and that's where you basically get a reprieval on property taxes so that you can borrow from the property tax fund for 15 or 20 years, and then you do the deed, and then in 15 they sort of reevaluate the value of your property, and you pay the loan back to the state through that reevaluation. But those reevaluations can be capped to what they were. So there's another possibility to do it through the county assessor's office because the money's there. So some of the money is there. And of course, don't let me just, before we get off the phone, get rid of mansion tax. What in the hell? Why is that still
Measure
a thing?
ULA. Yeah.
Gosh, I can't say it enough.
Elaine Culotti, where can we follow everything you're doing and all your commentary?
Okay, I say this over and over again. I am definitely a baby boomer, so I don't admit it openly. And so the only thing I can really operate well is Lipstick Farmer Instagram. I'm really good on Lipstick Farmer. If you hit me up on Lipstick Farmer, follow me on Lipstick Farmer, message me, DM me on Lipstick Farmer on Instagram, I will answer you. I try to answer everybody, and I'm trying to have more than 20,000 followers. I need like 1 million followers for people to like pay me to do this, which, not that I need the money, I don't, but at least I could get like advertisers that would talk about me. That would be cool.
I didn't know lipstick grew on farms.
I'm a girl farmer. I'm a girl farmer, and I'm in farming, and farming is no money anyway. If you look at farming, there's no money. It's just a labor of love.
You know, in Lithuania, I got to see the wheat harvest, which was something I had never seen before. It was pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this week. And if you want to follow up on all of our episodes, we're at 3homelessguys.com. If you want to send us feedback, it's pod@3homelessguys.com. This was a fascinating discussion. Thanks so much, Elaine, for joining us. For Ron, Oren, and myself, Joel Pollack, this is 3 Homeless Guys wishing you a pleasant week. Good luck rebuilding, and stay strong.
Thanks for listening to 3 Homeless Guys. If this episode hit home, please subscribe to our channel. Check out 3homelessguys.com for RSS feeds to your favorite streaming service. Follow us on social and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. Drop us a review or shoot us a message at pod@3homelessguys.com. We'd love to hear from you. Stay strong, and we'll catch you next time.